Hey, today I'm going to talk about 3 movies that in total were 732 hours of content. Yep! The names of those 3 movies are The Beautiful Troublemaker, The Deer Hunter, and Mysteries of Lisbon. It's gonna be a lot. First up is The Beautiful Troublemaker. This is a 1991 French movie, and this is actually the whole reason I wanted to do this long movies thing, is because I've wanted to watch this movie for forever. It's been described as watching paint dry, and you're either gonna hate it or love it. And spoilers, I loved it. I also disagree with that description of the movie. It's not like watching paint dry. It's a surprisingly engaging movie. It is 4 hours in length, and the basic premise is there is this old painter. He's kind of at the end of his career, but he still hasn't yet painted his magnus opus. And along comes this beautiful woman, and she inspires him to try for it again. And so the whole movie is just him trying to paint this perfect painting. And yeah, it's great. Yeah, I think this is actually a really easy movie to watch. The movie somehow just captivates you. Like, the scene that made me think, how is this so engaging, was the first time he went to sketch the woman. Basically, she didn't want to be painted. She wasn't asked permission for this. Her boyfriend signed her up for it, but she just kind of went in spite of him. She especially didn't want to go because she might have to be naked for us. And then she goes there and she's just standing in the painter's studio while the painter silently goes around picking up and cleaning up his studio. And it's like he hadn't even started painting yet, but I'm just like so wrapped into this. A lot of it has to do with just like, you're in her perspective. Because like, you know, she doesn't want to get naked, but you know he's also probably going to ask her to get naked, but you're not really sure if that's going to happen, and he's not really saying anything, and it's definitely like a clear power dynamic that he has all the power right now, but she doesn't, and that's terrifying because, you know, she's potentially going to get naked, and she shouldn't feel powerless in that moment, but he doesn't ask her to get naked. He just like starts sketching her, and you then in real time watch this dude sketch this woman like 3 times. And it's just, you're so sucked into it. You're just like, oh, interesting. Oh, okay, I'm seeing it. I'm picking up what you're putting down. And it's so weird how it just grabs you. But then the movie just like gets so powerful because eventually she does get naked. Just a quick aside, she's naked for most of this movie, but none of it is sexual. This movie has been described as erotica. It's not erotica. Yes, she's naked, but nudity isn't inherently sexual. Especially in this movie, it is very non-sexual nudity. Yes, she is beautiful, but it's not that kind of movie. But yeah, so the first time she's naked, it's terrifying. And like, you're seeing her just like stand there and shake. It's a close-up of her face. And so much of the movie is actually from further away. So like the times when they do those close-up shots are so much more powerful. And of course, the first time she's naked, it's a close-up of her face and you're just seeing her just like tremble there. But then as the movie goes on, she finds power in her naked body in kind of a similar way to the other French movie I talk about a bunch, Swimming Pool. In that movie, there's a beautiful woman who's topless a lot, but she is in control of her body and just kind of wielding her sexuality as a weapon. And in this movie, the model is kind of doing the same thing. It's not her sexuality, it's just her bare body. She wears it confidently to the point of the power dynamic shifts and she takes complete control of the entire environment. And it's really powerful. There's a lot more to this movie than just the nudity and the painting, but I won't go into that. I will say though, I definitely recommend this movie. I think it's very easy to watch. And it's great, especially for anyone who's an artist. You're definitely gonna get some inspiration from this. You do have to prepare yourself for it's a 4-hour movie, but I think that's actually the perfect length for this movie. And then you should also just be prepared for seeing a naked woman for most of the runtime. As long as you can get over those 2 really small hurdles, it's a great movie, and you're gonna be glad that you watched it. Next up is The Deer Hunter. This is a 1979 American movie starring Robert De Niro and Christopher Walken. It also has Meryl Streep in it. This is a 3-hour movie, and the basic premise is it's broken up into 3 sections. The first section is about a wedding. The second section is about hunting and going off to war, and then the third section is coming back home from the war and all of the issues that come with that. This movie won Best Picture in 1979, and it definitely deserved it. It was kind of a bit too long. The first 55 minutes is literally just a wedding happening practically in real time. It was impressive though how there really wasn't any spoken dialogue. People talked, but it was just kind of noise. This movie did such a great job of conveying feeling without words. And the wedding sequence is the perfect example of that. I do think it kind of went on for a bit too long because 55 minutes of a wedding was a lot. But I get why they did it, because they wanted to just instill this is Americana. This is America. We're this loving, drunk, fun time people. It also is there to set up to give you whiplash when they go to war, and just the harshness of that. And really, once they do go to war, it's very clearly Vietnam, but I'm not gonna call it Vietnam because they don't actually say Vietnam in the movie. Plus, the movie's really metaphorical, so yes, it's got the coded language of Vietnam, but it means to represent kind of all wars in general. So yeah, when they go to war, that's when it really picked up for me. And then the main characters all kind of become POWs together, and their captors start killing off the prisoners by playing Russian roulette. They're betting on games of Russian roulette. And that's actually a big point of contention with this movie, because that did not happen in Vietnam. There is absolutely no evidence that happened in Vietnam. But like I said, this movie is more metaphorical, so I'm actually very okay with them having the Russian roulette in this movie, because it's meant to more serve as a metaphor for the random acts of awfulness that happen in war. There's no real rhyme and reason to the tragedies of war. It's just mindless bloodshed for the sake of mindless bloodshed. For a lot of the movie, I had it kind of down a little bit lower. I was the wedding sequence went along for a while. It was in the liked category. And then once we went to the war, it became quite liked. And for a lot of the third act as well, it was still in the quite liked. But what finally bumped it up to the really like section for me was literally the last scene of the movie. It was incredible, but it's interesting too because it can be interpreted in 2 different ways. I will vaguely explain what happened. So there's a funeral that happened. I won't say who dies. So a lot of the characters come together. The funeral happens and then they're at the reception, and it's just kind of the main group of people, and they're all sad and defeated, and then one of the guys starts humming the song God Bless America. After he finishes a verse of it, everyone else then joins in and starts actually singing it. And I think there's 2 ways of interpreting that. The first one, which I really strongly don't think is the point of that scene or the entire movie, is this is America. You can beat us down, you can murder us, we can throw ourselves into a drunken depression, but we're still gonna stand strong because this is America, and God bless America, we're the best. But I don't think it's that. I really strongly don't think it's that. I think it's the second interpretation of that, in which this is America. We're this random acts of violence, drunken depression nation. We fight for no reason and we gain nothing from it. We just lose our humanity. This is America. That felt so poignant to me. I hate that it can be interpreted in either way, but it was the great way to end this movie. Christopher Walken also won Best Supporting Actor in it, and that he 1000% deserved that award. He, without a doubt, gave the best performance in this movie. It was incredible. Side note, he was also freaking gorgeous in this. He's 35 and slim and just... damn, dude, stop being so attractive. Robert De Niro is definitely the lead of the movie and definitely carried the movie, but Christopher Walken's performance could not be beat. It was something else. So yeah, I recommend this one too. It's great. Just be prepared for a long movie. This one definitely felt longer than the first one, even though it's an hour shorter, but it's still good. It's still really, really good. And lastly is Mysteries of Lisbon. This is a 2011 movie, and also this is going to be a really long review, and it's definitely going to be worth it. Earlier this year, I watched the movie The Black Book of Father Dennis, and after watching that movie, I discovered that technically it is a sequel slash appendix to The Mysteries of Lisbon. So because I already watched the other one, I wanted to watch this one to see the beginning of the story, I guess. This movie is 5 hours and 10 minutes in length, and it is definitely an endurance test, not because of its length, but because of its incredibly complex plot. This movie has so much plot, it could have filled like 2 seasons of a TV show. It was ridiculous. But I enjoyed it so much. Not so much during the experience. It was fine. It was shot beautifully and acted very, very well. But it was just a struggle to make sure I was keeping up with the story. But afterwards, I've recanted the plot to a few people, and it's such a fun time retelling that story that it's brought me so much joy, so I have to put it in the quite like section. But speaking of the plot, I am going to tell you the entire plot of this movie. It's going to take me a hot second, but it is definitely going to be worth it. So the movie starts on this little orphan boy. He's like 13. He's under the care of this priest named Father Dennis. The boy gets sick and wakes up one day to discover this woman over the top of him. And Father Dennis tells him that, oh, that's actually your mom. You're not entirely an orphan. So Father Dennis tells him the story of how he came to be alive. So back in the day, his mom was in love with this man who was rich but not rich because he's the second son. That's a whole thing. He technically didn't have any money. She loved him, but her father did not approve. They ended up making a baby together, but the grandpa now was just like, you can't have this child, and then hires this pirate assassin to stalk his daughter, and then once she has the baby, kidnap the baby and kill it. But then the priest finds out about this, I don't know how, and then so he disguises himself as a gypsy and then stalks the pirate assassin until right before he goes to kidnap the child, and then he bribes the pirate assassin to kidnap the child and then give him the child. And it works. Eventually, the lover father dies. I don't remember how. The mom then gets married off to this actually rich dude, but they don't love each other. So her husband starts having an affair with the maid, but then I think war happens and the husband dies. And the mom could inherit all of the money, but she's like, no. And so she decides to become a nun. Anyway, but then something that I missed is the maid then went on to marry the pirate assassin. For reasons, who knows? Also, this is like just at the beginning of the second hour of this movie is where I've gotten so far. From there, we learn about the history of Father Dennis, the priest who saved the boy. We find out the love triangle that led to his birth, him meeting his father for the first time. We then also find out about the history of his sister, who's not actually his sister, but is his sister. That's a whole thing, though technically we don't actually find out why they call each other brother and sister. We just find out about why his sister's real sister killed herself because her mom was pimping her out. Not the only instance of prostitution in this movie. Now I'm going to jump ahead to the end, but then it's going to bring a flashback again. So the little boy that was saved in the beginning of the movie eventually grows up to a young adult. He's like early 20s, and he falls in love with this woman who looks a suspicious amount like his mom. She does not love him back, but she tells him that if he goes and kills the pirate assassin, then she will love him. From there, we find out that this woman who looks suspiciously like his mom is almost related to the priest, because back when he was in a different war, he, along with his best friend, saved this third guy from getting murdered, and then the 3 of them became friends, and then all 3 of them fell in love with this woman's mom, but then like the guy that they saved was the one who ended up fathering a child with her, but then the friend of the priest convinced him to kill himself, and then eventually the mom died too. So everyone just died except for the priest who wasn't a priest yet, and the woman who looks like the mom but is definitely not the mom. And then after we found out about that, we found out the reason why the woman who looks like the mom but isn't the mom wants to kill the pirate assassin. And that is because back in the day, the pirate assassin really wanted to have sex with her, so he drew up a contract to be like, hey, let's have sex. And she's like, sure. So they had sex once, but then she fell in love with him and they had sex a few more times. And then she's like, take your money back, I'm not a prostitute. And he's like, no, keep the money. We made a contract. Screw off. And then so she kept trying to give the money back, but he wasn't having any of that. So then she started to send people to kill the pirate assassin because she's not a prostitute. It only makes sense to kill the guy who's claiming she's a prostitute, but they're not really telling anyone because his death makes her not a prostitute anymore, I guess. A lot of them fail, and then eventually she sends her twin brother, who so incredibly awkwardly accidentally kills himself while trying to kill the pirate assassin. It's really embarrassing how he did it. Now she's even more mad at him because she blames her brother's death on the pirate assassin. So flash forward to the future where she sent the little boy from the beginning of the movie to go kill the pirate assassin. They meet up, they duel a little bit. The pirate assassin has the upper hand. Also, side note, he got rich because he invested the money that he got from the priest at the beginning of the movie. Just gonna throw that in there. Anyway, yeah, they duel for a bit, and then like the pirate assassin's like, I could kill you, or I saved your life as a baby, so maybe I could not kill you. And he's like, dude, what? You're that guy? Oh my God. And so the kid then doesn't kill the pirate assassin because he couldn't, and doesn't go marry the woman who looks like his mom but isn't his mom. And instead, he goes to Brazil, because remember, this is Portugal, and invested his money in some stuff. But it kind of didn't work out and he got sick. So then on his maybe deathbed, he decides to start dictating his memoirs into this black book. And then the end, until the Black Book of Father Dennis came along and then added an appendix to it. But I don't know how it connects, because like, is the black book, is the memoir thing that he was dictating at the end, is that the black book from this movie? Maybe? I don't know. Father Dennis is not in the sequel movie. Also, there's like a little boy that's like the central character of the sequel, and I don't know who he is, who he's supposed to be. Is he related to someone from the Mysteries of Lisbon? I don't know. It's so confusing. I'm glad I was able to navigate that entire plot and I didn't really miss much. So yeah, I definitely do not recommend this movie. I enjoyed it a ton, but it is bonkers hard to understand everything that's happening. If you do go for it, don't, but yeah, you're in for a very interesting time. I definitely don't regret watching it, but I also don't recommend it to anyone else. Alrighty, now for today's rankings. First up, we got The Beautiful Troublemaker. It's sitting number 13 in the really like section. It's so good, you should definitely watch it. And then a bit behind that is The Deer Hunter, sitting number 33, also in the really like section, right at the bottom of the really like section. And then bringing up the rear is Mysteries of Lisbon, sitting number 61 in the quite like section. And this is out of a total of 132 movies so far this year.